sound's on. Here it comes. Sorry about that.
Where we left off in the last video, we were just kind of staring amazed at this Earth's view of the Milky Way
10
galaxy, just
minutes.
making sure we understood how enormous and how many stars we were looking at. And even if each of these dots were a star, this is a huge amount of stars. But a lot of these dots are thousands of stars. Are thousands of stars. So this, our mind was already blown. But what we're going to see in this video is that in some ways this is kind of just the beginning. And to some degree, I'm going to stop doing these particles of sand in a football field analogy, because it's at some point the particles of sand become so vast that our minds can't even grasp it to begin with. But let's just start with our Milky Way. And we saw in the last video the Milky Way right here. We're sitting here about 25,000 light years from the center. It's roughly 100,000 light years in diameter. And then let's put it in perspective of its local neighborhood. So let's look at the local group. And when we talk about local group, we're talking about the local group of galaxies. So this right here is the Milky Way's local group. That's us right there, sitting right over here, about 25,000 light years from the center of the Milky Way. You have some of these small, and I use small in quotation marks because these are also vast entities, also unimaginable entities. But we have these satellite galaxies around, under the gravitational influence, some of them, of the Milky Way. But the nearest large galaxy to us is Andromeda right over here. And this distance right over here. And now we're going to start talking in the millions of light years. So this distance right here is 2.5 million. 2.5 million light years. And just as a bit of a reference, if that's any reference at all, 1 light year is roughly the radius of the Oort cloud. And the Oort cloud was, or another way to think about it, the Oort cloud, or one radius of the Oort cloud, is about 50 or 60,000 astronomical units. And that's the distance from the sun to the Earth. So you could view this as 2.5 million times 60,000 or so times the distance from the sun to the Earth. So this is an unbelievably large distance we're talking about here. And that's to get to the next big galaxy over here. But even these things are huge things with many, just unfathomably many stars. But Andromeda in particular, we said that the Milky Way has 200 to 400 billion stars. Andromeda, people believe, has on the order of 1 trillion. 1 trillion stars. So even these just start to become numbers. It's hard to grasp. But we're not going to stop here. So in this over here, this whole diagram right here, it's about 4 light years across. If you go from point to point, if you go from one side to the other side, this is about not 4 light years. Sorry, this is 4 million light years. 4 million. 4 million light years. 4 light years is just the distance from us to Alpha to the Alpha Centauri. So that that was nothing. That would only take a Voyager 1 80,000 years to get. This is 4 million light years. So 4 million times the distance to the nearest star. But but even this is, I'm starting to stumble on my words because there's really no words to describe it. Even this is small on an intergalactic scale, because when you zoom out more, you can see our local group. Our local group is right over here. And this right over here is the Virgo supercluster. And each dot here is at least one galaxy, but it might be more than one galaxy. And more than one galaxies. And the diameter here is 150 million. 150 million light years. So what we saw in the local group in the last diagram, the distance from the Milky Way to Andromeda, which was 2.5 million light years, which would be just a little dot, just like that. That would be the distance between the Milky Way and Andromeda. And now we're looking at the Virgo supercluster that is 150 million light years. But we're not done yet. We can zoom out even more. And over here, so you had your Virgo supercluster, 150 million light years was that last diagram. This diagram right over here, I want to keep both of them on the screen if I can. This diagram right here, 150 million light years across. That would fit right about here on this diagram. So this is all of the superclusters that are near us. And once again, near has to be used very, very, very loosely. Here, this distance is about 150. This is about 150 million light years. A billion light years is 2, 3, 4, 5. A billion light years is about from here to there. So we're starting to talk on a fairly massive, I guess we've always been talking on a massive scale, but now it's an even more massive scale. But we're still not done, because this whole diagram, now these are, these dots that you're seeing now, I want to make it very clear. These aren't stars. These aren't even clusters of stars. These aren't even clusters of millions or even billions of stars. Each of these dots are clusters of galaxies, each of those galaxies having hundreds of billions to trillions of stars. So that we're just on an unbelievably massive scale at this point. But we're still not done. We're still not done. This is roughly about a billion light years across. But right here is actually the best estimate of the visible universe. And in future videos, we're going to talk a lot more about what the visible universe means. So if you were to zoom out enough, this entire diagram right here, about a billion light years, would fit right over, would fit just like that. So we're talking about a super small amount of this part right here. And this is just the visible universe. I want to make it clear. This is not the entire universe. And we say it's the visible universe because think about what's happening. When we think about a point out here, and we're observing it, and that's, let's say, 13 billion light years away. Let's say that point 13 billion. We're going to talk more about this in future videos. 13 billion light years. And I feel it's almost a sacrilege to be writing on this, because this complexity that we're seeing here is just mind-boggling. But this 13 billion light year away object, what we're observing, the light is just getting to us. This light left some point 13 billion light years ago. So what we're actually doing is observing that object close to the beginning of the actual universe. And the reason why it's the visible universe is there might have been something a little bit further out. Maybe its light hasn't reached us yet. Or maybe the universe itself, and we'll talk more about this, it's expanding so fast that the light will never, ever reach us. So it's actually a huge question mark. It's actually a huge question mark on how big the actual universe is. And then some people might say, well, does it even matter? Because this by itself is a huge distance. And I want to make it clear. You might say, okay, if this light over here, this is coming from 13 billion light years away, or if this is 13 billion light years away, then you could say, hey, so everything that we can observe, or that we can even observe the past of, the radius is about 26 billion light years. But even there, we have to be careful, because remember, the universe is expanding. When this light was emitted, and I'll do a whole video on this because the geometry of it is kind of hard to visualize. When this light was emitted, where we are in the Virgo supercluster inside of the Milky Way galaxy, where we are was much closer to that point. It was on the order of, and I want to make sure I get this right, 36 million light years. So we were super close by, I guess astronomical scales. We were super close, only 36 million light years, to this object when that light was released. But that light was coming to us, and the whole time the universe expanding, so we were also moving away from it. If you just think about all of the spaces, everything is expanding away from each other. And only 13 billion years later did it finally catch up with us. But the whole time that was happening, this object has also been moving. This object has also been moving away from us. And so our best estimate of where this object is now, based on how space is expanding, is on the order of 40 or 45 billion light years away. We're just observing where that light was emitted 13 billion years ago. And I want to be very clear. What we're observing, this light is coming from something very, very, very primitive. That area of space where that light was emitted from has now condensed into way more, I guess, mature astronomical structures. If you take it from the other point of view, people sitting in this point of space now, and they've now moved 46 billion light years out, when they observe our region of space, they're not going to see us. They're not going to see Earth as it is now. They're going to see the region of space where Earth is at a super primitive stage, shortly after the Big Bang. And when I use words like shortly, I use that also loosely. We're still talking about hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. So we'll talk more about that in a future video. But the whole point of this video is, I almost, it's beyond mind-numbing. I would say the last video about the Milky Way, that alone was mind-numbing. But now we're in a reality where just the Milky Way becomes something that's almost unbelievably insignificant when you think about this picture right here. And the really mind-numbing thing is, if someone told me that this is the entire universe, this by itself would certainly put things in perspective. But it's unknown what's beyond it. There's some estimates that this might only be 1 times 10 to the 23rd of the entire universe. And we'll talk there. It might even be the reality that the entire universe is smaller than this, and that's an interesting thing to think about. But I'll leave you there, because I think no matter how you think about it, it's just I don't know. I actually, before doing this video, I stared at some of these photos for like half an hour. This is my least productive day, just because it's just so awe-inspiring to think about what these dots and dots of the dots really are.
Good. Okay, so the reason I wanted us to get this information into perspective is that there's a very, very, very vast place out there. And scientists have looked at it, they've measured it, I suppose, as best they can, and they've given us these actual facts about, light years and how far away certain things are and that. And also, if we think Earth's big, imagine, and our galaxy rather, imagine, Andromeda, that's even more huge. So these are all things that can inspire us to read more and learn more. So there's definitely things out there. There's definitely other planets and other galaxies and so on. So that puts that into perspective. And if we look at today, here and now, we are looking at today is December the 14th. All right, a total eclipse of the sun. So I'm just reading off this latest information that came through to me, like really now. And the total solar eclipse, December the 14th. They're saying it's hard to believe, is on the day the US election is certified. And also, the winter solstice is on the same day as the grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. It's a very, very, very profound time right now. And what's coming in now, with the sun and the moon at interplay, sun being the gold, the moon being the silver. And this comes from, if anyone studied Rudolf Steiner, you'll know quite a lot about the planetary movements and the metals associated with each planet, and actually the healing ability of each planet as a result of the metal that's associated with it. So right now, with the total solar eclipse, we've got the moon silver and the sun gold at interplay. And at some stage, the moon will collapse the gold of the sun down, and then the sun will revitalize itself, re-energize itself, and the gold will be more powerful again. So there's a breakdown and a death and a rebirth, a death and a rebirth. So that's happening right now. The sun is rebirthing itself just from a total eclipse point of view. And then just also to say that 800 years ago, the planets were in alignment, which they're coming into alignment now as well. And I've talked before about the revolution, and what actually happened was they moved from the Middle Ages into the Renaissance. Can you believe it? From the Middle Ages into the Renaissance. I find that phenomenal. So this is what we could actually be on the verge of. We could be on the verge of. And Saturn and Jupiter are moving out of Capricorn, which is an earth sign, and we're moving into Aquarius, which is a water sign. So very, very interesting and fascinating things. They've talked about the Great Reset. And, as I said, who knows where we could actually be set. Other astrological information is saying to us, the Aquarius is the age of the living waters, the life force, the love, the wisdom, the information technology to our advantage. So that would be more like free energy space, telepathy, and those kind of things. I think there's lots and lots of space for that. And this flowing of the life force into the world and humanity. Wonderful. Just make sure that your vesicles are open and ready, your chalices, so that this wonderful life force can flow into you and our precious earth. And also, there's a possibility of a superhuman intervention at this time. So who knows? of intervention on any level, by the way. And then also just to know that South Africa, the US, and Russia are nations, all right, which have Aquarius rising. And there's other nations as well, but just to mention these ones. And so they embody the Aquarian energy. So let's look at this openly to see, what's going to happen. But it's definitely the age of self-responsibility and creating our own future, our own destinies, and working with our own purpose, and then with teams of people of like-minded, and then collective transformation. And doing that, our DNA will unfold, and so will that of the planet. And then, who really knows what else is? But we must do service. We must serve and do good. That's very important right now. So also things like giving spare clothes away, and anything that you're not using right now. It's a very good time right now to do all of that and really cleanse and lighten yourself. And as with anything, the death and the rebirth, it's possible. Between now this week, anything's possible. So stay awake, stay alert, watch the sky, watch the ground, watch nature, listen to what nature's communicating with you. Very, 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 very important. So now let's have a look at this, what my friend and I put together. And these slides that I've got, just some of them. All right, and this is just really information, and you can take it and use it however you want to use it. So when we look at these star seeds, so many of us have come from different planetary alignments, different groupings, different spaces. And right in the beginning, they talked about the star seeds, also known as stars people, sometimes talked as indigo children, crystal children, even referred to as millennials. And where some of them come all knowing, some of them are completely wired and very different to us. And this book by Brad Steig in 1976 first talked about the gods of Aquarius. So it's very likely now that these children that are born now and prior are post-millennial. They're in a different stream as well. They have no fear. They only know abundance. And they know about visualization, and they know about it happening. They don't have the fear. So the third point here, speaking about the thought that people have originated as extraterrestrials, living on the earth through birth. So they could have come in and been born actually by a mother and a father, or actually as a walk-in. So that was I referred to right in the beginning as well. That can happen. So, and then we have these different bodies from different places. Here's just some of them, and I may not also have got the spelling correct. Okay, so just bear with me. But here's the Avarian race, and this is on a planet. Some of them call it a spaceship outside Saturn, and they live there, and it's very green, and it's completely vegan, and I don't want to name names, but there are people on the planet that claim they come from there, okay? Then there's the Pleiadian group. There's the Syrian group. That's the dolphins and the whales. It's the great, let me just read what we wrote here. The great central sun. The Syrian planet is the great central sun, and it's the dolphins and the whales. And then we've got the Vega, the Lyra people, the Aquarius people, very, very, very tall people. Then we've also got the Silver Legions, and they're not all good. So they've all got a good and a bad part, but some of them, the bad outweighs the good. So, there's lots of ego and things like that from those people. And then we've got the Orion group. 21st of December, they're coming in. The Pleiades, 31st of October. So they're on and off planet, working with us. There's also other ones called Draco, and there would be Lizardish planet, the Blue Phoenix planet, the Golden Dawn planets. And these are all groups and constellations and stars, and some of them I've listed here. Also the Nordic aliens. So just to give you an idea of actually what's out there, and again, you need to just go and do some Googling and go and find out what's happening, because the other point that notes that I made is that there's a lot of actual interwarring going on. And same 800 years ago, there was quite a lot of factions fighting and vying for position and for control. Exactly what we see today. Exactly what we're seeing happening on the political front is actually off-planet motivated. Now think about that. It's off-planet motivated, and we're stuck in the middle of this firing line. And they're trapping us and making us and generating one video after another after another. I don't know how many are generated every day. And they repeat themselves and they repeat themselves. I will not post one of them. I'm not sending them on, because I'm buying into the entrapment. So I wanted to point this out to you, all right, that there's warring factions going on that are not even on planet. It's coming from an off-planet point of view, okay? And none of them have complete 12 DNA strains. We are the ones that have it. We are the ones that are most powerful. We are the creators. Right? So you work with the primary creator, and you create what you need to create. Okay. So that's I think is very important for us to understand too. And then this is all about lightening up and opening our vesicles and getting ourselves ready. It's literally a week ahead. All right. And I can tell you what to do or visualize anything, and you can't tell me either. We have to take this now and be self-responsible and be empowered. And most of this lecture series has been to empower us with all sorts of different information, from our health to our home, to our food, to our businesses, because all of this is going to have an effect. I mean, even moving from Middle Ages to Renaissance had an effect on the economy. So very interesting things ahead. Very, very interesting things ahead. Let me see what I wrote here. Oh, that is the link. So for example, the Orion constellation there, there's the Orion's belt and so on. So this, although it's astrologically, scientifically presented like this, it's actually a constellation of beings, the Orion group. And then we've got another one here. Oh, this was very interesting. And I came across this information about suddenly these huge dams in Australia becoming empty overnight. And I want you to go and Google this, and I want you to come back and tell me what you think. Literally, not maybe, or the dam's emptied. And the information coming through is that these huge big vesicles, or whatever you want to call them, came and sucked all the water up. It was like a filling station type of a thing. So I found a picture to show you. This is actually in the Mediterranean. So it's happening all around the world, where the water is being sucked up into the clouds. You can have a look at the clouds, and you can also make a decision on that and make your call. So just wanted to tell you that this is definitely, it's not a maybe. They wake up in Australia and the dams are empty. Similarly, maybe like the crop circles. And they call this outer space the Galactic Federation. All right, and this is a visual and talking about their first contact with the Earth with us in 2017. So the question may be, well, if you're a starseed, which alignment did you come from? Where did you come from? And that's the kind of thing we need to really Google and knuckle down if you're interested. If you're not interested, that's all right as well. But to me, it's just too vast out there for there to be nothing. And as I said to you before, I'm always looking up. And I'm looking at that night sky, and I'm also not ever fixed on the information that I learned at school, at university, or whatever, because we're finding more and more and more today It was almost like a history lesson where we were taught and told what was the order of the day, not actually the realities. So luckily we're in the age that we're in, and there's lots and lots of information sources to go and have a look at and open up our minds, as Professor Deja Dubonnet says, to the infinite infinity. The infinite infinity. And go and explore. We've got 7 days. It might be quite bumpy these next 7 days. Who knows? But all I can tell you is that I'm incredibly excited. And if we're going to have a thing going from the Middle Ages into the Renaissance, when the planets line up, what does that mean? It's going to seem like a double planet or a really, really large, bright planet, one or star in the sky. That's what we're going to be seeing. So it's going to be really auspicious, and we're going to be doing the shadow workshop, guided and led by Professor Deja Dubonnet, Ritus, and myself, actually. And so we've got an advert for that, a flyer to send out to everybody, and the cost is €150. And what also Professor said is that there's also you can buy your ticket via Karma. And what does Karma mean? Because I've had some questions about this as well. What we want to know is what you're going to do. So are you going to have go to a school and teach? Are you going to take any of your gifts that you have and share? Are you going to, what are you going to do? What are you going to give back? Because karma is a giving back. So when you leave the planet, you can't take your bank balance with you, but you can take your karmic balance with you. Okay, so this is what she's on about. So if you're going to do good things, she's happy to either negotiate a rate with you or let you in, so without paying. So she's having a look at allowing as many people and most people in. So all she's saying is, if you need to contact me or Rita or her and say, listen, I want to make a karmic contribution. This is what I want to do. Here's your ticket. Okay, so that's what that's all about. Okay, and then there we will also be working, because of the divine energy right then, we will be working on transmuting, well, maybe let's rather say uncovering, meeting our shadow face to face, and then also transmuting ourselves and transcending to a much, much, much higher level. So we'll be doing a lot of that work and many other things to do with exactly this beautiful and wonderful, very powerful lineup. So it's going to be really great, and nothing else is being done exactly the way we're doing it right now. So we're really going to be blessed to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to really share with you just some of the things, and then let you expand upon it. And if you want to check in with me or ask me on anything, that's fine as well. But it just gives you an understanding of the current political situation, the countries that are at war, and the mix-up, on the planet. So we need to basically put that aside, because moving into the new dispensation, I'm not sure where it leaves all of that. But we need to look after ourselves and move ourselves forward and manifest. Remember, the kinetic potential energy into kinetic energy, spiritualization of matter. And I'm getting loads of people arriving. They want the almost gold. They want they want the replica, the RNA DNA replica. Many people are getting earthing mats right now. Many people are getting the pendants for restoring the DNA. And there's just this massive awakening. And this series is called Awakening to the Golden Age. And we've only got 2 more left, because we've got the 15th and the 16th. And then I'm going to shift it to the turning point. And many of you have been part of our turning points before, because we're literally then going to be on the cusp of the turning point. And just talking about the really, really amazing things happening, maybe not so amazing. Keeping a watchful eye out on solar flares. Please post on our group. There's been quite a few in the recent 10 days. And these are DNA activating solar flares. Remember that if one goes skew or someone interferes or something happens and it goes to the measurement of about a 5 or a 6, it can put the internet down. So make sure you've got hard copies of your very valuable things. You know, I had my IT guy here today, so we've been transferring everything just to be safe. And yeah, so that's it. Anybody I see? Let me see if there's any chat, anything to say. Yeah, well, there we go. So I've got all of you here, which is amazing. Let me just see. Okay, so let's go into the expansive infinite infinity. And you'll be hearing soon about an interview that we had today. I don't want to spoil it because Daisy's going to edit it and everything, but we had quite a very interesting a guy wanting to speak to Daisy and me about certain things. So very interesting. But I think she's going to post it. So look out for that. And then tomorrow, I tell you what I also want to talk about. I think I'm going to do labyrinths. I think it's dolphins and whales tomorrow night, and I'm going to bring in also labyrinth. Because when you walk a labyrinth, you restructure yourself. So the droopy shoulder becomes a straight shoulder, the back aligns, everything comes into beautiful, perfect alignment when you do the labyrinth. And that's what I got this morning when I was walking around my property. I'm going to put a massive labyrinth at the bottom, near that very auspicious tree I spoke about. And I'm also changing my veggie patch into a big circle with radial spikes. And I do have it in squares because it's actually, you get a great yield. But I'm going to also put these big circles on the property. So that's what I got this morning. Walk in the labyrinth to restructure yourself. And hug a tree. If you hug the tree, you will also restructure yourself. It's very, very good energy. Beautiful energy. All right, guys. Thanks for bearing with me with that video, but we got it in the end. All right. If you want to check anything with me, please do. And just look forward to this great reset. All right. With open, embraced arms, ready to take on whatever you need to. Okay. See you tomorrow. We're going to have an interesting time. Vanessa, definitely. It will be unbelievable for the children. Okay. The labyrinth, yeah. So I'm seeing you. Okay. It's really in the. I'm not giving COVID any power. For me, raising humanity's immunity is enough. Because we need to be immune to all of this stuff. All right, visible, invisible, on planet, off planet, Middle Earth, down the bottom of the Antarctica or Arctica, in that hole. Have you seen there's a hole there? Anyway, go and have a look, guys.